Hello and welcome to the Wewealth Women podcast. My name is Athena Gardner, CPA and founder of Wewealth Women, where we help women increase their wealth, wisdom, and womanhood. Now, today I am super excited. We have a lauded guest, Amy Weinland daughter. So I'm going to quickly introduce Amy and then kick it to her. So Amy is a lauded award-winning um, writer, author, and dynamic keynote speaker, and envisions unity in diversity where our disparities intertwine as bonds rather than divisions. By revitalizing the age old art of handwritten letters, I'm going to ask you about that. She revives human connections in an increasingly digital age. Infused with wit and humor, Amy draws from her experience crafting 580 handwritten letters to all her Facebook friends, illuminating the path to profound connections in the unlikeliest corners. With acclaimed works like Dear Dana and You Cannot Mess This Up, Amy inspires others to embrace vulnerability, proving that genuine kinship thrives even in unexpected spheres. Oh my God. So, Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me on, Athena. I am super excited to be here.
Oh my God. I'm so glad that you are here as well. Okay. So, first question out the gate, your mission to revive the art of handwritten letters is so refreshing, especially because we do live in this digital age and everything is email now. I can't remember the last time I received a handwritten letter. What inspired you to embark on writing all those letters to your Facebook friends? And what was the most surprising lesson you learned from doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd like to frame this story and by saying I was minding my own business because I was. I mean, I was not looking to go on a meaningful journey that was going to pivot like my career and everything I did, and I was absolutely not. I was not looking to, I was not the letter writing girl coming into this story, and I think my story is a great testament, not to who I am, but that we get inspired by things that seem ridiculous, especially, you know, well, I'll say we all as human beings get inspired to do things that we're like, oh, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. But then as women, I think we feel held back by, wait, I can't, how is that going to be received in the world? And my story is a great testament, again, to someone just taking a chance on something and then something incredible happening after it. So I think that's the way the story needs to be framed, first of all. But it was 2014, Athena, and I was minding my own business, as advertised. And I was a freelance writer. I had written my first book, and I got on Facebook like all of us do, or social media, and I remembered this girl that I had worked with at a summer camp in the like 1986, like 30 something years ago. And we spent maybe 6 weeks together. And we were both loud and like had big personalities. And I don't really remember how we connected, but I remember I felt very connected to her because we were big personalities. And so I get on Facebook, and the moment I remember her intersects with me being on social media, I look her up. There she is, Dana. And I friend request her. She accepts it. Like, I have no idea whether she really remembers me. And it doesn't mean anything, really, because we're just going to be friends on Facebook. Like, who cares? You know? So immediately I go look at her profile and do the complimentary 5 minute stalking, review of 30 years of this woman's life, because we've had no contact, zero in 35 years. And I look, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh my God, she overachieved in children. She has 5 children. This woman has knocked it out of the ballpark on kids. And she has 4 daughters, one son, and the youngest son, I mean, the only son, the youngest child, his name is Parker, and he has cancer, and he's fighting cancer. And that's, it's a lot of her posts. She's very like honest and transparent. And so as a mom, as a human being, as a person, I got involved in this story. Immediately, he's at St. Jude in Memphis, Tennessee, which means it's probably serious. And I didn't, she asked for prayers, so I did that, but I never hit like or comment. I did nothing. I just was in the background, and I kind of felt like I was overfeeling it, but I just watched. And so Parker ended up going into remission about 6 months later. So it kind of goes on the back burner of my consciousness, but I still see her on Facebook. And then at the end of that year, she says, something's going wrong with Parker. She goes back to Memphis, and the cancer's back, kind of with a vengeance. I'm like, oh no. And so I had this writing schedule. I was writing about American college football at the time. It's like a Sunday for a Monday for a Tuesday, like a regular schedule. And so I
Mhm.
sat down to do like my Sunday, and I was like, it was like a bolt of lightning. I was like, you know what I'm going to do? Because they were in my, they'd gotten up in my heart, I guess, Dana and Parker. I was like, I'm going to start writing them cards and sending them to the Ronald McDonald House in Memphis. That despite the fact the kid had no idea who I was. She
Mhm.
may not have remembered me for real. But I was like, I'm just going to do it. And I felt so invested. And I hadn't sent anybody a letter in 25 years probably. So I just start writing these cards every week. I put her on my schedule for my Sunday for my Monday. So I write the card, I mail it on Monday. I do that for like 8 to 10 weeks, and then the year turns to the next year, and you can see things changing in her posts. And there's no good words for this, but her son Parker passes away at 15. And it's devastating. I feel devastated even though I have nothing to do with it, and I know it has nothing to do with me. But I'm like, what do I do next? I'm like, I'll just keep writing the letters. And this, I like to tell this part of the story where like this is me behaving irrationally to different levels. So the first level was I sent them these cards. Next, I'm like, I want to keep writing her. I knew her husband was an attorney. So I'm like, I'll just send the letters there because I can't Facebook message her and ask her what her address is at this point. So I start sending these letters to her husband's law office. That's crazy, and I understand that. And the only way I can explain it to Athena was like I knew I was behaving irrationally, but I couldn't stop myself. I mean, I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do. And so
Right.
I keep sending the letters. About 4 months later, lo and behold, I go out to my mailbox and there's a 10-page letter from this woman in my mailbox. And she talks
Wow.
about her grief. She talks about her life. She talks about her kids. She talks about her experience. And so this kicks off 2 years of us communicating exclusively through the post office. Like we didn't text each
Wow.
other. If you can imagine, we didn't email each other. We didn't Facebook each other. Like we still had no interaction on
So
Facebook.
did you look forward to those letters then when
Oh
that
my
started
gosh.
happening?
Yeah, that was like
Like
a
did both of you like was it like a treat? Like did it bring a sense of nostalgia to receive letters and to send someone a letter and for someone to like send
oh, it
something
was
back?
yeah, it was unbelievable because on a bunch of different levels, first of all, I was just shocked that she wrote me back because I knew I was being crazy. And second of all, her letters were filled with so much meaning, so much depth that I realized that I mean, she talked about her grief and I started looking at my life from the outside in, from my end of the letters. And it created this free space, which I realized I didn't understand because in 2016, I couldn't have understood that, like, if you wrote me and I wrote you back, you wouldn't
Mhm.
know when I was reading what you said.
Mhm.
You had no idea, if nobody knew what anybody was doing. So it gave you this space to say whatever you wanted to. The person's
Mhm.
not sitting across from you. So you can say whatever you want to. There's no hurry for a response. And so there was this free space and we started to trust each other. And we would say things like, I mean, we literally had not spoken in 35 years. And we would say, oh, well, I can trust you, Dana. I've never told anybody this. And we didn't even know each other. But one of the most beautiful things was I didn't know how she voted. We didn't know what religious values we had. We didn't know what we thought about anything. All we knew as we cared about each other like very deeply because of these letters, which were kind of ridiculous, on the other end. So this was such a deep, it had such meaning and it impacted me. So it made me look at like everything differently. And I sat back after about 6 months of us writing back and forth. And I was like, if this can happen from this one girl, like what about these other people? Like, what's the deal with them? You know,
Mhm.
so then I went really bananagrams nutso. And
I love a crazy woman, by the way. I think I'm a crazy woman, so I'm glad that you went banana.
yeah, we're like-minded then. And so I was like, I'm going to write all these people and just see what happens. Like it'll be a social experiment. And so I got a Excel spreadsheet. I like copy pasted everyone's name into the spreadsheet. I printed it out, little slips of paper, put it in a box, bought some stationery that said, Amy Weinland daughter is your Facebook friend. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I got a journal and I sat down on day one. I was like, oh no, now I'm going to have to actually write these people letters. But I start picking the names out of the boxes and I start sending these letters. And I'm about 25, 30 letters in. I'm like, and I didn't think I was going to finish. I didn't think it was going to be a meaningful journey. I didn't think any of that. Oh, it's going to be so inspiring. It's going to change my life. I was just going to do it because it seemed like a good idea at the time. And so about 30 letters in, I was like, you know what? This is going to change my entire life. And then after
Wow.
about 250 letters, I was like, now I can't stop. And now I have people expecting the letters because it started out being like a secret. And then when people knew, people started friending me, and then I had to
Oh,
cut that
because they
off at
wanted a
some
letter.
point. They wanted a letter. And it turned out I didn't understand how powerful it was to receive a handwritten letter in 2016. I didn't realize that a letter could have the power to say, I don't care what you believe, I don't care how you voted, because our connection is more important to that.
Mhm.
So I went from being a girl who hadn't read a letter for 25 years to a girl who travels around and speaks about letter writing and how,
Yeah.
we have this power individually to just absolutely blow someone's mind and change their heart. And I realized that this practice can be used in any arena where there's a human relationship involved. It could be
Mm.
in real estate, it can be harnessed by businesses, it could be employee facing for employee engagement, it could be used personally, clearly, and that was my take on it. But this can literally be harnessed, and it is so powerful that it cannot even be engaged in any arena where there's a human relationship.
I actually want to ask you about that because a part of when you were talking, I was thinking, okay, for someone to just open up to you on the level, you were saying that she was opening up to you about grief, and I'm sure the other letters, I'm sure they were opening up to you about their most vulnerable, intimate thoughts and feelings. Do you feel that because it was almost removed from anything attached to their own personal life, they felt safe? So, for example, I always used to make this joke like in therapy, it was like the best because it's like a stranger, they're not really a part of your most intimate life, so it's almost like going to confessional church. You can just kind of like just be open in a way because you're not so much worried about the judgment. And even though we have social media, like you said, you can see their religious affiliations, political, all kind of things. So do you think the benefit of the letter writing, the reason why it was so conducive to the amount of vulnerability is because it kind of removed anything that would cause any kind of preconceived judgment, and it was its own separate space via the communication of letters?
You absolutely nailed it with that. That's absolutely what happened, and that happened with a lot of the Facebook letters, but absolutely with Dana, because Dana told me after the fact, because we ended up meeting in person, now we're best friends, but she told me after the fact, one, they would wait for the letters, that family would wait for the letters, so I thought I was doing something crazy and almost meaningful, as because if you think about it, she lost her son, like the most devastating thing you could think of, and I'm writing her letters. I mean, that's ridiculous. But she said
Mhm.
they were waiting for the letters. And then to your brilliant point, she said that, she's the mom. She goes into a room with the four daughters and the husband. If everybody seems like they're kind of having a good day, then she doesn't talk about her grief. She goes over and writes me a letter because
Mhm.
because I'm a safe space, because she doesn't really know me, because she can pour it all out there and she's not going to burden me with that. She doesn't feel like she's going to burden me with anything she says. She doesn't even know if I'm going to read it.
Mhm.
It's so non-intrusive. Like you're not
Mhm.
I can choose not to read the letter, and there's not going to be a thing that says at the bottom of my phone, she read your letter. So it,
Mhm.
it creates this vacuum of space where you can say whatever you want to. And I think, and her daughters have said that I was her safe space. I think I'm still her safe space. We still, like, after this call, I'm going to write her a letter because we still write each other.
I
Because it's,
love
oh
that.
yeah, yeah. And we know each other in a way that I think no one else knows the other one, because we know each other in writing, which is completely different.
Oh my god, I think you're inspiring me to write more letters actually. But in your conversation just now, what I want to talk about is you talked about creating a safe space, vulnerability, being seen, right? Because vulnerability is, our willingness and our openness to be seen, even the not so great parts, right? And with the letter writing, it kind of creates its own world where you can be seen via word, via letters. In our society today, do you think some of the things that we're experiencing, great loneliness, depression, all of those things, even though we have access via internet technology to be even more connected, it seems like, that is not happening, right? That is not happening. And it seems like what is the cause of that? Is do we really care? Are we not really feeling cared for within our environments, within our homes, or even online? And does the letter writing activity or space produces value of intimacy and care?
Oh, absolutely. And again, you nailed it again. Because what I think, I wouldn't be talking to you right now and telling this story without social media. So first of all, I think blasting social media as the, absolute worst thing that ever happened to us would be wrong. I think it's a very nuanced thing because it's a jump off point for real relationship. But what it does is we never get treated individually in the electronic world. Even with an email, it's because it doesn't require none of these relationships require a lot of sacrifice. And that's what makes us feel isolated because as human beings, I think we require a certain level of sacrifice because we understand that transaction ourselves, that's what we require to feel like we're important. And here's what a letter did. Here's what I didn't understand, Athena. And this can be a 2 sentence note. It does not have to be a letter. My story is a great story and it's this ridiculous story and it's a jump off point, but it doesn't have to be everyone else's story. So if you send me, let's say we went to high school together and or we work together or whatever, and you send me a letter, like a handwritten letter or note or card. If I go out to my mailbox, and I know this because I experienced this through other people 600 times, I'm going to open the mailbox and I'm going to hold this thing from my friend in my hands, which is, first of all, is intimate. I'm holding something in my hands that you held in your hands. And think about that. That means something before I even open it. But all of a sudden, in my mind, I'm going to connect the dots, click, 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 on what it took for you to do this. This is the effort that Athena took for me. You had to sit down, find a pen, get the card. You had to buy that at Target or wherever you got it. You had to take the effort to write it down in your own handwriting. And that shows your vulnerability because it's not going to be perfect. You're going to cross things out unless you want to start the card over and buy another one over and over again. And that's beautiful because it's not perfect. It's like you're not an imperfect, wonderful human being. And then if it says something meaningful, all the better. But then you had to stick it in the envelope. You had to find my address. You had to seal the envelope. Where are your stamps, Athena? Do you even have stamps? I didn't before this. You have to put the stamp on it, and then you have to run across town somewhere. And where are the blue mailboxes anymore? Where's the post office? Most people don't know. And so all of a sudden I'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to hold this thing in my hand before I open them. This is how much I matter to another human being. Boom. I'm valued. And I cannot tell you what the number one response, like the most common response I got from these letters, and this is incredible. And I had no idea this would happen. This is the most common response was, I will save your letter in a special place for the rest of my life.
Wow.
Mic drop. Boom.
What? So so I love everything that you said, right? And I think because I said to myself this year that I'm big stepping this year, and from a continuation of last year, I wanted to open up and be more open and vulnerable in all of my connections, not just my familial or friends, but strangers. And I try to engage and have conversation with people as much as possible. And what I realize is a lot of us, we're living these lives, right? And we're having these functions, whether or not the role of mother, daughter, sister, friend, coworker, colleague, husband, wife, whatever. But outside of fulfilling these duties, right, I find that a lot of us don't feel like we matter or we are valued in that way. And to what your credit is the real value the feeling of being sacrificed for, like really understanding that you are giving up something in order to do something for me or make me feel special. And that's how I know I matter to you. Is it a part of the fix within our society is that we just need to feel like we matter and are more valued?
I think that's absolutely it. And I think that, when we feel valued, I mean, it changes our whole outlook on, everything We do. I mean, there's a positivity, and mattering means everything. And I think the other part of this transaction that needs to be highlighted is that the person who changes the most from writing the letters, we assume that when we're reaching out to someone, like you reach out to me and tell them that they matter to you, the person who's the most changed, and this is the bonus round on this whole thing, is the person who wrote the letter. Because you're going to be filled with hope and gratitude that you didn't. It just changes your perception. It's like a tweak. Like I knew those 580 people. Like I understood that they had some impact on my life, but I didn't understand until I treated them like individuals. Like, oh my God, look at all these amazing people I'm connected to. I was filled with so much gratitude because I remembered what you meant to me then. And then the other thing, we live in this world where we're pretty sure at this point that we cannot do anything to turn the tide of this negativity and complete, we live in this world of, polarization where we're pretty sure we can't fix this. Well, I'm telling you what, writing a letter once a day or once a week or whatever your speed is, it will absolutely remind you that you can do something that infuses more than just hope, but just love, inspiration, whatever you want to call it. It infuses so much good in the world that you can't be stopped. And it's 73 cents and 15 minutes of your time. It's almost been laying there simply in our tool belt and we didn't even see it. I didn't see it.
So the price went up to 73 cents. I remember when it was like
I know. I know it's ridiculous. It just went up to 73 and I looked it
oh
up.
my gosh, not even the post office can escape inflation, y'all. Like the
That's right.
price went up.
It's still worth it, but I'm saying, when I started my project, I think in 2016, it was 58 cents. I mean, that
Yeah,
was,
I remember when it was like 40 something.
yeah, yeah, but yeah,
So
it's crazy.
oh my God. So, what you said like touches on something that was happening today. Today I do a morning walk to connect with nature, and I have this like huge like it's a park, but it's like a nature place, to be honest with you. It's like acres and acres of nature. So I go there every morning to clear my mind, do my little morning walk, commune with myself, commune with God, all of these things. And today I had the thought of the things I like about children is that children make time for fun. And I feel like we as adults, we don't make time for fun. Like somehow life becomes a cycle of obligation and bills. And I was like, we need to make time for the intangibles of life that bring us so much value and joy. And I think with the letter writing, I'm sure there's a fun aspect to it, but you're also making time for vulnerability. You're also making time for connection. You're also making time for those things because more so than what destination or goal we're necessarily trying to get in life, how we feel throughout the process, I feel like often gets overlooked and diminished. And I think your message of writing letters is so important to help with that communication and connection and provides value and really calls to me just listening calls into question what are the things that we truly value because and the things and the things that we think we value, are they really bringing the value that we think they are? Because something so small, right, as letter writing can have such an impact on ourselves and another person. Then I just think the charge to the viewers, especially those of us listening to this, is okay, have you made an assessment of the things that we do in our lives and how much value do they really bring, right? And how much of the things we're doing add intimacy, vulnerability, and joy versus external achievement. But I want to segue into the art of handwriting letters because that is, as time goes on, less and less people do that. I know in schools, they're not even teaching cursive anymore, which I'm like, oh my God, that's so important, especially to read historical letters. Because sometimes handwriting letters can feel intimidating in a world of instant communication. What advice would you be able to give women who may be too afraid to start, but want to and don't know where to begin?
Right. I feel like the number, well, first of all, the number one rule in writing handwritten letters or notes is there are no rules. because I really think, Athena, it's all it really requires is, a human being with a heart, because it's got to be personalized to the person. Like, throw out everything I said about what my rules were and make up your own rules, because this can be done in 2 sentences or 8 pages, but that really depends on who you are, like what your speed is. Like, it could be done 5 letters a week, it could be done in 1 letter a month. And I think that the thing we get in our ways, especially as women, we get in our way because the culture we live in now tells us we have to be certified in some way to do something. Like, we have to be documented, certified. I got a business degree. I got into writing by accident because we moved to England for 3 years for my husband's job, and out of desperation, I started writing, and now I'm an author and a speaker. And I haven't taken writing classes, but the thing is not to get in your own head and say, I can't do this because I'm not a writer. You can do it because you're a human being with a heart, but you have to take it where you're comfortable with it. And all I can tell you is I still tell myself when I sit down and write a card or a note, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm putting myself out there unnecessarily. So expect that block. And I tell you what, if you can make yourself climb over it 5 times, you will notice such a difference in your own life, much less the recipients of your letters. And do it your way. If you have 2 sentences to say, or 1 sentence, or 12, or whatever it is, do it that way. But my advice for the startup is go to Target or Walmart, buy the smallest note card they have available in the smallest quantity. Don't overwhelm yourself. And I guarantee you, when people listen to this, because I speak about it all the time, you'll have thought of somebody you want to reconnect with or communicate with in some way. Write that person's name down right now. Go get the small card and the one stamp and send it, and just write what you thought. It's no more difficult than that. Write what you thought, because sincerity, and you're never too late to tell another human being that you care about them. Sincerity and something that comes from the heart will never be received in any way but openly. And I can tell you this because, again, I experienced it over and over and over again. All it will do, even if you don't hear back from the person, will absolutely make not just their day, but probably their entire year, and they're going to save it. It's going to be a treasure and a gift. And if you do it at work with an employee or a coworker, it works. A customer, a friend, a sister, a family member, it's applicable every single place where there's two humans who are connected.
Wow. And I think that's such great, solid advice. And like you said, all you have to do is be a human with a heart, right? And I know you do some keynote speeches, right? And in your keynote speeches, you highlight the importance of embracing differences. So, how do you feel like writing letters help individuals see the humanity in others? Are we losing our humanity in the age of instant gratification, technology, AI, go, 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 boom, 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 versus slowing down, writing letters, making time for connection? Is the advancement that we are making as humans almost dehumanizing us? Are we losing our human connection?
Absolutely. And you again, you have a beautiful way of verbalizing a thought, because you said so much right there. And I'll tell you that, the the disconnect between, you know people who, especially people who don't, if like you said earlier in this conversation, on social media what people believe, whether they, we all have the friends who post about it, like post about their political views, who are very like forward about it. And then, but even the people who don't, you kind of know where they stand, and that gets in our head, especially right now. But let me just tell you, through the process of trying to figure out what I was going to say to these people, that's where the hope came from. That's where the desire, to me, the fact that I could be connected to anyone, and that would matter less than the connection. And here's how I found that out. Again, not because I'm a great person who was twirling around in a field of wheat asking God what I was supposed to do, but because I was just trying to write these letters. And I think this would have happened naturally to anyone. So let's say I'm going to write you, Athena, and let's say we went to high school together. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do if I'm going to write you a letter, especially someone who I haven't spoken to in a while, I'm going to go look at your profile, right? And what I realized over and over again is I did, as though I knew, like I looked at Athena and was like, oh, high school Athena. I didn't really, because of the way social media works, I never really sat down and considered you as an individual. Like I saw your posts, I saw about your family and I saw about this, but I didn't really know. And so I sat down and looked at every one of these people's profiles for like, 5 to 10 minutes. And then the first thing was like, oh my God, Athena's a badass. She's a CPA. She's doing her own podcast. She's doing, we women, she's doing these things for people. She's serving her community. She's confident. Like, who does that? Who puts themselves out there like that? That's hard. So the first thing, the first part of the letter was always like, here's why I'm doing it. I'm crazy. And my friend Dana and Parker and blah, 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 just kind of my why. But then the next thing I'd be like, hey, you're killing it. I'm proud to be your friend, and that's just obvious. And then maybe you had posted about suffering a loss or winning an award or, going through a health problem. Well, then my next thing is, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, congratulations. Oh my gosh, a personal connection, and so that fills up, a good half of the letter. But through that process, I was like, oh my God, I'm connected to 580 total badasses, whether you were a teacher or whether you were a missionary or a vice president or you graduated from Princeton or you were trying to be an American Ninja Warrior. That's a true story, or whether you were, there was a guy who won an Oscar I went to high school with who I had no idea. And so first
Mhm.
of all, I'm connected to 500 amazing individuals who are living messed up, beautiful lives just like me, you know?
Mhm.
And then the second part I'm going to do, and this is natural. Again, this is not Amy Daughter's great person. This is what anyone would naturally do. I'm going to think of Athena from high school and I'll be like, Athena, so what was our connection like? I'll be like, Athena, she's the girl who, by the payphone that day after that guy broke up with me, she got right up in my business, as in life coach Athena, and was like, this relationship is not going to define you. Amy, your life is going to be amazing. You're going to remember this is what you're not, who you're not going to be connected with in the future. And so, you know what I'm
Mhm.
going to get to do, Athena? After 25 years, I'm going to say, Athena, thank you. I never thanked you for doing that for me. I never thanked you for being there when my grandmother died. I never thanked you for, and so the combination of those things, while yes, I bet when you opened that letter, that made you feel really good. But all of a sudden for me, first of all, my gratitude meter went off the charts because I realized that Athena was one of 580 people who showed up at the right time for me. Whether it was the girl who I danced with at the wedding and like we were the whole, attraction of the wedding dancing situation. And then we talked about our feelings in the women's room. I mean, the best, whether it was her, the girl from the cruise ship, somebody who I lived next door to for 20 years and hadn't seen in 10, a girl I worked with, whatever. Oh my gosh, relationally speaking, I'm the luckiest woman in America, you know? And so combine all that together and think about how I feel about each of those 580 peoples. Athena, I don't care how you voted. I mean this sincerely. Athena, I don't have a side anymore because I know that you're my person. You were my person in 1994 and you're still my person and you're a badass and you're making a difference in people's lives. So I don't care where you go to church. I mean, I do, it still matters to you and it matters. If it matters to you, it matters to me, but I'm so much less tied in to
Mhm.
what I thought you were because I know who you are now.
Mhm. And
That's
I
it.
think that is the most important thing. And I know I generally don't talk about certain things, but during like the election and politics and all of that, I told people, and I had friends who voted the way I was gonna vote and didn't vote the way I was gonna vote. And actually, my best friend and I had opposing views at the time, and we were okay with that. It didn't affect our friendship one whatsoever.
I feel like that's
Not
rare. Do you feel like that's rare?
I'm realizing it is because I just don't I feel like I don't know, I'm a very spiritual person. So I feel like just like I want the right to express and believe and do what I want to do, I have to respect someone as a human being and how they see and view the world and their choice in the matter. If I want to have choice, I need to respect other people's ability to have choice, whether or not I agree with it or not, or whether or not I like it or not. And I also understand she's also spiritual too. I also understand, and we both understand that we are all here on this life, on the earth, and living this life, but we're having completely different experiences, and it will be limited in thought and in my thinking to think that how I'm viewing the world and world experience and how I'm trying to vote for it to benefit me does not necessarily mean that her experience and what she's trying to do and her benefit for her are going to line up. And I can't diminish how this person shows up to me in my life
Right.
because of what a ballot is going to be or who they pray to or whatever. That's not even my business, to be 100%. um and I think that that's more important because we value human connection, because at the end of the day, and I did a reel on this on my social, a president was not going to make you rich anyway.
Right.
Not personally. A president wasn't going to do certain things, right? But my best friend is a person I call when I want something to be celebrated, the person I call when I'm crying about something. She just knitted me this gangsta Lenny Kravitz scarf that I'm totally in love with. Am I gonna throw away the
Right.
value that how we show up in each other's lives because of some politics that I'm not even sure, even in the grand scheme of things, everybody all on the same side. I was watching a video the other day, what Jimmy Carter's funeral. Everybody was pretty much chummy in there. So why, if they're not upset, why am I
Right.
upset and throwing away people in my life?
No,
So
and that's why you need to continue, your platform, because you did an episode about how, it was like we're not talking about politics, we're talking about how are your finance going to be affected because Donald Trump won. I thought that was
mhm,
brilliant because like put that all to one side. We're not talking about that. What we're talking about is the reality of the situation. Now that's not what you just talked about, but I think
mhm.
that message is so important, and that's what I learned from writing the letters. But you using your platform, I mean, to spread that kind of thing. That's what we need. I mean, we're desperate for that hope that you just, again, verbally, illustrated beautifully, you know?
Thank you. And that's what I try to do to get us to like understand that a lot of stuff anyway are games people are playing, and it does affect people's lives. But however, on your level, right, and we're talking on a human level,
Right,
on a human level, what are the things that are going to add value to your life on a human? If there was no accolade for it, there was no show for it, no one saw you or acknowledged you for it, what are the things that are truly going to add value in your life? And having the intangibles, like being able to be vulnerable, to express, to have deep connection, to make time for fun, to make time for joy, to make time for your own soul satisfying pursuits, for you to figure out how you want to, what your contribution to society is going to be and how you want to add value to the world, to me is more profound than anything. And to be honest, all the accolades and stuff is just gravy if you even get it. But we need to get back to these situations, because how many people have we seen who do have these accolades, who do have these acknowledgements, also come out and say I'm depressed, also come out and say that I don't have no family, also come out and say I don't have anyone I can trust. So while we're chasing whatever it is that we're chasing or trying to be acknowledged by the world by, what that lets me know is that even if I'm on the apex of whatever accomplishment I'm trying to get, the trust, the honest, the sacrifice, the connection, the love, having people around you that care about you will always be the really main value, because whether I get that or not, I'm still gonna need those things. Like, I think we just need to have like clarity on what our needs are. And our needs are not necessarily going to be fully satisfied on a surgeon's table or a social status or anything that can be taken away. Like, look what's happening now with the LA wildfires. Their
right,
generational homes of millionaires just gone.
right,
They're homeless. Their social status did not save them from
right.
that. their accomplishments or what they even contributed to the world or society did not save them from that. They
Right.
are at well, depending on where you're at, the soup line, trying to get water and basic human needs met. So I think, especially, and I was thinking about this, we need to get back to operating on a human level. And
Right.
I think what the writing of the letters do is it takes us back to basics. It takes us back to the foundations of what matters and how we can make those changes and have impact in our lives doing something as simple as writing a letter.
Right. And again, beautifully said, it grounds us.
Mhm.
It grounds us because as the writer, it grounds us. It reminds us if it's a daily process, if it's twice a week, it reminds us over and over again of what really matters. And it reminds us that we can put good into the world regardless of what the world tells us. And it puts the focus back on connections and it's non-intrusive. You're not asking anybody to do anything back. It doesn't require a response. No one's asking you to do anything. It's just between you and the other person. And it checks off so many boxes. It's almost counterintuitive to think that something so simple could be so powerful to both sides of this very simple transaction. And I'll tell you that, after I guess it was after the 580 letters, my father, who I was very, very close to, got very sick and he ended up passing away. And my brother and sister joked the whole time that there were so many people who showed up who had gotten a letter. I mean, these people came out of the woodwork and they're like, it's the letter people in the hospital,
Mhm.
at the funeral, because it meant so much to them. They felt so connected to me. And I'm saying those
Mhm.
are the intrinsic things you get back. It wasn't an award. And again, I didn't mean to write a book. I didn't mean to speak about it, but so powerful, I can't not do it. It's
Mhm.
it's spreading this message. But I'm telling you, like people, they were there for me because they felt like I was there for them, and all I did was mail a letter. Athena, that's all I did.
Mhm.
And these people and I would show up for them now too because it's different. These relationships are different. It took these electronic relationships and turned them into flesh and bone. Where
Mhm.
it's a different level of connection. What a gift! But we all, I'm just a girl with a story. We all have this power. We all have this in our toolkit. Every single one of us.
And I think it reminds us that we are
So
all
powerful.
powerful. So
Yep.
I actually want to touch on something. So I know you wrote Dear Dana and you cannot mess it up.
Yeah.
Mess it up. So both of your books seem to encourage readers to embrace imperfection and authenticity. Why do you think this message is powerful, and particularly for women today?
Yeah, I think, we especially, and again, I'm not saying social media is the worst thing that happens, but we live in a world where one, we compare ourselves to each other, and two, things are polished. We put stuff on Instagram that have been filtered, that we can make sure we didn't misspell anything. So we expect to be live in this world where we're perceived in an image where everybody thinks it's all going so well and we fit into this box. But the truth
Mhm.
is the most beautiful parts of us, especially as women, are the parts that are different, the parts that are eccentric and unusual. And that's why I said at the beginning of the story, if we could all just encourage each other as women, especially to do the idea, to do the crazy, it doesn't have to be a big idea, it can be a small idea, to do something that our conscious, that our heart of hearts, that our whatever our spirituality is pushing us towards. If we would encourage each other rather than try to, you know, uh, all fit into the same thing and survive it, I think we would be so much better off, especially women, because we have that emotional foundation in which to encourage each other, to
Mhm.
go on journeys and start podcasts, to crazily go do something like I did. I mean, those are powerful things. And the best part of us are our differences, you know?
I agree, and I think that's so powerful, and I'm so happy to have you today. And this was just such a simple, but I think meaningful and profound conversation on something that I think is going to add so much value to our readers, especially during challenging times, right? So I actually want to ask, what's next for you? Do you have any upcoming projects or books or anything that you're excited to share with us at this time?
Well, I'm working on several things at once, so I don't have one specific thing I'm working on. I have something exciting happening with my first book, and so I'm working on that. And then I do have another book project that's underway, but it's like historical, it's like humorous historical fiction. So it's going to be a complete divergence with a similar message, but it's going to be a complete divergence from the other projects, which is I think that's kind of how I roll at this point. I'm looking to do something different. But I'm also hyper focused. I mean, I do the speaking on the whole idea, which you expressed so beautifully, about how, we can be different, but be on the same page as human beings. And that's something I want to explore in writing and speaking. And I think it's so well timed. And that's why it's been absolutely an honor to be on this platform. And I will listen to you again because I feel like we are of the same mind. And so
Yeah,
I really
I
appreciate
feel very connected, actually.
Yeah.
I know we haven't written letters to each other yet, but I feel very connected.
Well, and I think sometimes you can frame it as God or fate or whatever you want to, that this story has directed me to the right people. And I feel like that with you. And so I will continue to listen to you for inspiration. And I hope what you're doing is making a difference for sure.
I appreciate that. And I do those morning walks. I'm debating. Maybe I could ask you, Amy. I'm debating and making that a series because I do my morning walks every morning and I have all these thoughts. But then I was like, I don't really share them. I was like, maybe I should share them like after I do my walk because I'm outside in nature. But I even had the thought today. I was like, okay, even if I don't hit certain targets I'm trying to do as far as like my own personal accomplishment, I was just like, I am contributing to society in ways that I don't even fully know or understand. So when you
100%.
say that to me, it's almost like a confirmation of the thought I had this morning. So I'm like, okay, you're on the right track. Keep going. And the work itself is rewarding. Like as long as the work itself is rewarding, then everything after that is just extra. And that's how I'm looking at everything these days. Like everything is just extra, you
Right.
know?
And I think that's important. I'm a walker too every morning, which is amazing, which doesn't surprise me. But
Mhm.
but that's the thing. You keep trudging on, and then you have those moments. Even for you to have the vision to, because I always think it's funny that people ask me on their podcast to talk about letter writing because I go and listen to their episodes. I'm like, oh, I'm not really sure how I fit in there. And I think that every single time, but you had the vision to do that, but you just have to trust yourself. And I'm not saying I'm
Mhm.
a great guest. I'm saying, but to look outside the box and say, this
I
could be
think
of
you're a great
value.
guest.
This could be of value to somebody, but I'm saying that vision to look at things and not just try to fit it into the immediate
Mhm.
structure. I talked to a
Mhm.
guy from Finland yesterday, and he was like this very specific software. It was called Scrum Master, this software agile
Yeah.
management. And I had to go look
Mhm.
it up and see what it was.
Project management.
Yeah, and I got at the beginning and I was like, look, I don't really know how I fit in, but he had the vision to say, no, this fits in to this role, this part of leadership that I want to do. But you have that similar vision. So I think you have to trust that. You have to
Yeah.
trust your vision on, like, do I want to share the morning walks? You probably should, because you
I
have
think
that.
I'm going to actually. I think I'm
Yeah,
gonna make that a series on the at least the YouTube channel.
right.
But it's
I'll watch.
just, you know, and with that even said, ladies, between Amy and I, if you have these divine downloads, sometimes I call them, sometimes just lean into them, right? Stop trying to, and I'm saying as myself as well,
Me
trying
too.
to perfect something and just do it. And you never know because Amy wasn't thinking that her writing letters was going to spark this whole career, life, transformative speaking. And now she's helping people connect back to their humanity through letter writing and sharing her story. You never know what something can lead to if you just take the first step and just act on it.
Right. And we have
You
to
know?
trust ourselves. As women, that's hard because we've got all the other voices telling us why we shouldn't, and then why
Mhm.
we're
Mhm.
imposters, and why people won't take us seriously. And that's why surround yourself with people who are yes people, who are like, let's go. Because that's the
Mhm.
most important thing. And then be that person for somebody else and watch and see
You know
what happens.
what I also say? I said sometimes just embrace mediocrity. because sometimes the perfectionist syndromes hold us back, and there's a lot of mediocrity spewing around, but they out here doing it. So I was like, just embrace like being okay with looking crazy or
Oh yeah.
making a mistake or failing or whatever, because that's how you learn anyway.
Well, that's where greatness comes from, though, if that's what we're achieving, or meaningfulness. Maybe that's because I feel like that's more in line with the message here, in
Mhm.
creating real change and meaningfulness. That comes from, a lot of failures and a lot of messy, ugly, the stuff that comes with it. And I think
Mhm.
embracing mediocrity is a beautiful message, because that's where we're going to be a lot of times. We're going to live there. And then we get this peak. We get this peak all of a sudden out of
Everybody
nowhere.
want to be an expert day one, and that is just not how things go.
No, it's not how it works, because we don't know the fullness of something until we go through the whole entire thing. So,
Yeah. Oh my God. I love that. And with that, Amy, wonderful guest. Loved your energy. Think you're amazing. Can you share with everyone where can they find you, what you have coming up that you want to share, and how they can contact you or even write you a letter at this
right.
point?
Well, yeah, we got all the things. So if you go to amydaughters.com, that's got all about both books, some funny business, obviously, some my contact information if you want to send me an email. If you want to further this conversation, I'm 100% about, listening, learning, having a conversation. And yes, my mailing address is on my website. So if you mail me a letter, I guarantee you it won't be right away, but I will write you back. If you could make me your first letter, that would be an honor,
Yeah.
and I would love to hear back from you. But that's the best way for all the information about me. And then if I have upcoming projects that I'm ready to share, that will be on there as well.
Listen, go on to the website, honey, and get the books, write her a letter, give us her feedback, our social, everything. So, Amy, you are wonderful. You are doing such impactful work to contribute to our society. Thank you for reminding us to get back to being on a human level. Thank you for reminding us that we can take time out for these things that do add value and to get us to question. And I want all of us to think about this. What do we need moving forward that is so fulfilling as we go about all these different things that we're trying to do in life? But that is today's episode of We Wealth Women with our wonderful guest, Amy Weinland Daughters, reminding you to write letters and connect on a human level. And I will see you guys in the next episode.